Hey, this is Victor Antonio with another motivation tip just for you. Hey, one way that we can motivate people, especially our sales team, is to really give them what I call line of sight. Now, this is a term I learned many years ago when I was in the technology business. What does line of sight mean? I want you to imagine the curvature of the earth, okay? The curvature of the earth. And what happens is when you have an antenna here and an antenna here, the signal, based on the curvature of the earth, can't really hit this other antenna, right? So what they do is they either move the antenna closer so they could hit it, or they put an intermediate antenna and it can hit that one, then relay down to that one. Now, what does that have to do with motivation? Well, sometimes when we give somebody a goal, a sales goal, maybe a big quota, a big number, it feels like these two antennas. And the salesperson really can't see how they're going to get to that number, given the curvature of what they're dealing with, right? In other words, this is all the sales they'll have to make just to get there, and they can't see it. So sometimes it's worth giving them an intermediate goal so they can now have line of sight just to get to that point. And from that point, they can actually see this down here as well. So keep this in mind, that sometimes we want to give somebody an annual quota, but maybe it's worth sitting down with the salesperson and saying, hey, let's not think about the whole year. Let's really look at your third quarter or your first quarter and your second quarter, 3 months out and 6 months out, and let's just focus on how to get to that number within that time frame. And just by giving them that line of sight, again, if they hit those numbers along the way, the first quarter and second quarter, it builds momentum, but it also gives them a line of sight of how to hit the big number at the end of the year. Now, there's different ways you can set up quotas. What I used to do is start out with smaller percentages depending on the market. I would start with smaller percentages, knowing that the big buying impact is always in the third or fourth quarter. But there were other markets that January, February, and March, the first quarter, were the biggest months. That's where you made your big number. So sometimes I would move the bigger number quota, percentage-wise, towards the first quarter. But again, my point being, I digress a bit. The point is that if you give somebody a big number and they're here and the quota's over here and they can't see how they're going to get there, our job as sales managers is to really give them an intermediate goal so they can hit that shorter goal and maybe get to that big number we want to get them to. Get the idea? So again, this is called line of sight when it comes to goal setting. In this case, setting quotas for your salespeople. This is Victor Antonio with another motivation tip for salespeople. We will see you tomorrow. Take care.